Welcome to Outside Views. Today we need to talk about Britain's ever-delayed post-Brexit border regime. Yep, once again, it's been pushed back. It's October 2024 and here we are, yet another postponement of the UK's ambitious and some might say overcomplicated border plan. So, what's happened this time? Well, the British government has announced that the rollout of its border target operating model will be delayed again. Originally, this model was supposed to kick in by October 31st, but now the government has decided that January 31st in 2025 is the new date. This latest delay means the UK will continue to wave through goods from the European Union without requiring the safety and security certificates that were meant to be mandatory, for another 3 months at least. And why has this delay occurred? Well, if you've been following the saga of Brexit, none of this should come as a surprise. The reason, yet again, is that the technology is just not ready. It's another case of ambitious promises colliding head-on with logistical reality. The British government had planned to introduce something called the Single Trade Window. That's a digital platform that would allow importers and exporters to file all their paperwork in one place. This was supposed to streamline the import process and bring the UK in line with other advanced trading nations. However, it appears that the single trade window is still in testing mode. Only a few selected users are even working with the first release of the functionality. And the government is now scrambling to listen to industry feedback about how much time businesses will need to prepare for this new system. It's one thing to plan a sweeping change, but it's quite another to get all the players involved on board and ready to go. Businesses were informed of the delay at a meeting of the Joint Customs Consultative Committee. That's a forum involving border groups and various business representatives. Now, according to reports, the general reaction to this news has been, well, let's not say not entirely shocked. A senior business representative summed it up quite bluntly. The delay is not a surprise. Why? Because there's been a lack of guidance. There's been very little information about how the new system will actually work. Think about it. With less than a month to go, there should have been detailed instructions, walkthroughs, and concrete examples for the industries involved. Instead, businesses were left with a communication blackout, struggling to make plans. And the government, it seems, had no choice but to delay. And honestly, it's not difficult to see why. The entire experience of rolling out the Border Targeting Operating Model, or BTOM as it's often called, has been marred by uncertainty and a lack of clear communication. According to one senior representative, it's been a case of far too little information, far too late. And there's a sentiment echoed across the board. And there's a real sense here that the government's efforts to prepare for Brexit's consequences have been continually hampered by this sort of disorganization, even a new government. And this time around, the problem seems to boil down to technology. The single trade window simply isn't where it needs to be yet. So delaying the rollout is being seen as a sensible move, a chance to get it right before it becomes a bigger problem. And now there's also a broader context to this delay that's worth mentioning. The new Labour government has stated that it plans to negotiate a veterinary agreement with the European Union. If successful, this could align UK-EU standards for animal and plant products, potentially removing the need for all these checks on EU food imports in the first place. And that could significantly change the post-Brexit landscape and make the entire border regime less of a burden on businesses and traders. It's a logical step, considering that a lot of the bureaucracy surrounding Brexit has made trade with the EU more cumbersome, and that in turn has affected the economy. The goal ultimately is to simplify things and ensure that goods can flow across borders without unnecessary complications. The government has also introduced new legislation allowing ministers to recognize EU product safety rules that have been updated since Britain left the bloc. In theory, this could lead to a smoother transition and fewer trade disruptions. But it's not all optimism. Businesses are understandably frustrated. They want to be ready, but they can't prepare if they aren't given the tools and the information they need. The HMRC spokesperson said that they are continuing to engage closely with the industry to ensure a smooth transition. But these words might be cold comfort to the companies who have been trying to figure out what exactly they are supposed to be doing for the last few years. The government also mentioned that businesses that are ready to start submitting safety and security declarations before the new introduction date are welcome to do so. But how many of them will be ready? And how many are still waiting for clear instructions? For the government, this delay is just another marker in the long, tortuous road of Brexit implementation. What should have been a clearly defined plan has become a drawn-out series of delays and adjustments. For businesses, this uncertainty makes life a lot harder. And trade relies on predictability. When companies don't know what's expected of them, or when they're only given vague guidance, it becomes difficult to make sound business decisions. And the latest delay may give the government some breathing space to get the technology right. It may also allow time for more negotiations with the EU on potential alternatives, like the veterinary agreement. But at the end of the day, we are still left with the same question. How long can these delays keep happening before they cause real lasting damage? The idea of the single trade window is a good one in theory. A centralized digital platform should simplify the paperwork nightmare that many importers and exporters face. But it's only as good as its implementation. And right now, the implementation has fallen short. This delay may be sensible, but it's also highlighting the difficulties that the UK continues to face in establishing its post-Brexit identity. It's been almost 4 years since the UK left the EU, and yet there's still no clear border system in place. For those who believed Brexit would bring about a new era of British sovereignty and efficiency, well, this constant state of delay must be disheartening. And the promise was to take back control. But here we are, still struggling to get the basic mechanics in place. Will the new date, January 31st, 2025, be the final deadline? Or is this just one more postponement in an already long list? Only time will tell. For now, businesses will have to continue waiting, watching, and hoping that the next promise doesn't turn into yet another delay. So thanks for tuning in to Outside Views. We'll keep following these developments closely and bring you updates as they happen. Until next time, take care, and the next video is right here in the end screen.